I woke up to an article that almost made me spit out my coffee. It said that the number one most active crypto project is not Bitcoin. It is not Ethereum at all. It is a coin that I almost gave up on. Naturally, I had to find out what the heck was going on. And it turns out that the top 3 projects by development activity this past month are all coins and ones that are sitting in my portfolio. So I couldn't believe it. Third place was Hedera. Second was Chainlink, and the number 1 project, well, we'll get to that dark horse in a minute. Now, I was equal parts excited and just a tad confused. I was excited here because, hey, I own all of these tokens, so maybe I did something right. But I was also confused because these aren't the usual kind of hype magnets that you hear about on the daily. So I even hopped into our free educational Discord server and asked, hey guys, am I reading this right? Did ICP, the Internet Computer Protocol, just beat everyone in dev activity? Some people were just as stunned as me. Others kind of started poking me like, told you that those would pay off eventually, right? And at that moment, I kind of felt like I had stumbled onto a secret. While everyone else was kind of watching prices, these teams were quietly building like there was no tomorrow. So, in this video, I'm going to be taking you along on my little discovery adventure. I want to share what each of these 3 projects has been up to behind the scenes, what they're building, why their developer activity is through the roof, and what it could mean for the future. And here's a fair warning. I'm enthusiastic about this stuff because, well, I've got skin in the game on all 3 projects. But remember, enthusiasm is not financial advice. I'll just drop the official disclaimer in a bit, but if you do hold ICP, Link, or 𝗕𝗂, or you're just into underdog crypto stories, you're going to want to hear this. So let's get into it. Now, you know how in crypto land, everyone kind of loves to obsess over prices. Guilty as charged. I do too. But every now and then, something reminds me that what developers are doing might be even more important. So there's a ranking that kind of looks at the development activity. Think GitHub commits, code updates, all of that really nerdy stuff. Now, the idea is that the more active the devs, the more kind of confidence that you can have in that project's, isn't going to be a ghost town. Now, some even say high dev activity can be a forward signal. It often shows up before big growth or big price recoveries. Now, I'm not saying that there's a sure thing here, but if it does kind of hint at which teams, are actually hustling the hardest when nobody's looking. So, seeing Hedera, Chainlink, and ICP at the top kind of told me, okay, these folks are in it for the long haul. Let's start with Hedera, which ranks 3rd, right? Hedera, or 𝗕𝗂𝗪, was, a bit of a sleeper in my portfolio. I grabbed some 𝗕𝗂𝗪 a while back because, I was intrigued by Hedera's approach. It doesn't even run on a typical blockchain. It uses Hashgraph instead. Now, the tech sounded pretty cool. It's fast. It's able to handle a whole ton of transactions with super low fees. And they had a big name companies in their governing council, right? But I honestly wasn't expecting too much excitement in the short term. Boy, was I wrong. Over the past year, Hedera's 𝗕𝗂𝗪's price quietly skyrocketed by about 375%. So in a year where a lot of coins were either flat or sinking, Hedera took off like it had rocket fuel. Now, I remember checking my portfolio like, wait, since when is 𝗕𝗂𝗪 one of the top gainers? It kind of felt like the quiet kid in class who suddenly aces the final exam and you're like, where did that come from? The price action aside, the development activity on Hedera has been buzzing. The devs aren't letting the hype get to their heads. They're grinding away, which is a great sign. So, what are they building that's keeping them so busy? Well, one big theme is real-world asset tokenization. Buzzword, sure, but it's practical, right? It means taking real assets, stocks, bonds, real estate, maybe even art, and representing them as tokens. Hedera has positioned itself as a prime platform for just that, thanks to its enterprise-friendly design, fast, secure, and governed by reputable organizations. Hedera's also been in the limelight because of moves with traditional finance. Now, there's a filing to convert a Hedera trust into a a spot 𝗕𝗓𝗪 ETF. If that gets approved, it means regular investors could buy an ETF that holds 𝗕𝗓𝗪, like buying a stock. Now, that's a pretty big step towards the mainstream. Why the interest? Probably because there's a clear momentum and use case potential. What's cool is Hedera isn't doing all of this alone. Hedera integrated Chainlink's cross-chain interoperability protocol, known as CCIP, into its own ecosystem. In plain English, Hedera can bridge assets to and from other blockchains like Ethereum using Chainlink's tech. It's like Hedera opened a door to the rest of the crypto world, inviting developers to build things that connect different networks. So after that interoperability push, there was a noticeable uptick in builders coming on in. Making sense, right? Well, if you kind of want both the speed of Hedera and the access to liquidity on Ethereum, well, now you can have both working together. So think of it like a high-speed train network connecting an old subway station or system. Suddenly, of course, you can travel anywhere without charging and changing trains, right? The result is you get more traffic, more devs, and more activity because it's just easier to move around. I'll be honest, after learning all of this, I did go and grab a little more 𝗕𝗓𝗪 for myself. I used the 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗀 crypto exchange for it, and the exchange link is an affiliate link that supports the channel down below. So I just had to kind of get this, I just had this kind of gut feeling that if Hedera's devs are this active and the project's gaining real-world traction, then I want to be along for the ride, at least with a small bag. Now, of course, that's just my move with my own money. Don't go FOMOing in because I did, right? We each have our own risk tolerance. All right, now on to Chainlink, the second place dev activity champion. Unlike ICP or even Hedera, Chainlink isn't under the kind of radar in terms of reputation. Now, if you've been around crypto, you've definitely heard of Chainlink or seen the little blue link logo somewhere. Now, Chainlink is basically the plumbing of the crypto world. It's an oracle network connecting smart contracts to real-world data, kind of like feeding price info into DeFi applications, among other things. Now, without Chainlink, a whole lot of blockchain applications would be like isolated pipes without, at least with no water actually running on through them. Now, Chainlink provides the water, the data in this case, and now even the pipes themselves between different blockchains. Now, I've been a self-proclaimed link marine for quite a while, but even I was surprised at some of these milestones that Chainlink hit recently. First off, the total value of assets using Chainlink's tech in DeFi blew past $100 billion. To put that into perspective, that is more than the GDP of some small countries, all secured by Chainlink's network. It's pretty wild, and I had to double check that stat because it sounded unbelievable. But it is real. Chainlink has become so embedded in the DeFi ecosystem that if you tally up all of the money in smart contracts relying on Chainlink services, it's 12 figures. Now, a couple of years ago, you would have actually have imagined that scale, right? And the craziest part is that the Link's token's price hasn't gone on some ridiculous moonshot yet. It's been relatively modest in the swings, right? So when I see things like $100 billion secured and a flurry of GitHub commits from the devs, I'm thinking either the market is asleep on Link or it's just prepping for something bigger down the line. No guarantees, of course. Crypto prices love to make fools of anyone trying to predict them, but the groundwork is there. Beyond the DeFi stat, Chainlink's team has been branching into new territory, real-world assets again. Now, Chainlink is leading in that area too. A standout example is a pilot in Hong Kong with 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗔𝗡 and UBS. Yes, a traditional banking giant getting involved with tokenized assets. Now, under a recognized program, Chainlink's infrastructure will help move real financial assets on-chain via digital transfer agent. Smart contracts handling all of the transfers. Imagine real-world bonds or stocks being traded as tokens on a platform, and Chainlink's tech helps make sure that those transactions are executed correctly and securely. Now, this pilot got official approval to test, which is huge. It's kind of like a regulator saying, all right, you can try this out in the open. Now, after bridging old finance with the new rails of crypto, and Chainlink is right there at the center of that bridge. On the technical side too, CCIP, that cross-chain protocol, is a big deal for connecting blockchains. It lets different chains talk to each other and actually send value across safely. Now, the team looked at those notorious cross-chain bridge hacks where hundreds of millions have gotten stolen and said, we can just do better. CCIP is their answer with a more secure path. Now, the fact that Hedera and other networks integrated CCIP shows Chainlink might be the common thread that ties many ecosystems together, not just feeding them data, but linking their functionality. It's like Chainlink evolved from being kind of the weatherman telling you that it's raining to also building the roads between the cities. With so many kind of irons in the fire, no wonder that their GitHub is on fire too. Developers are improving Oracle networks, rolling out CCIP, refining link staking, and more. As a link holder, that makes me very happy. It shows that the project isn't just resting. Now, speaking of holding link, I've been dollar cost averaging into Chainlink for a while. One of the places that I often trade altcoins like Link is BitGet, and that exchange that I mentioned earlier, Bluefin as well. There is also an affiliate link for BitGet down in the description that supports the channel at no extra cost to yourself. Now, I just keep adding a little link here and there because, well, they're building essential infrastructure. Even if price is boring today, I sleep a little bit easier knowing that there's real utility and a team that delivers. Now, before I jump to the number one project on this dev activity list, the one that kind of truly shocked me, let me kind of make one point, one really important thing really crystal clear. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your own responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Okay, we had to say it. I did mention that I own these coins and I'm excited about them, but that's just me sharing my personal story. Now, you've got to decide for yourself what fits your goals and your nerves. All right, so here's a drum roll for the dark horse then. That number one project by development activity recently is the Internet Computer, ICP. If you're going, well, that thing from 2021 that fell off of an absolute cliff and a radar, well, you're not alone. ICP launched with a ton of hype and a crazy high price that just tanked massively. I got in at the very top. I joke, I didn't, of course. I got in pretty close to the bottom, if I'm being honest with you. And I do think that this has the potential to be a pretty big deal. A blockchain running at least web speed and hosting websites and apps directly on chain. The big vision from Dfinity. Now, after the hype died down, ICP became almost a bit of a punchline in some circles. The price drifted down and a lot of people wrote it off as a kind of overpromised and under-delivered project. I'll admit, I almost gave up too. My ICP sat there, as I just dollar cost averaged even better prices and better positions. But it didn't really do much except just remind me of how high the price once was and how so many people got wrecked so quickly. You can fast forward to now and ICP is far from dead. Right? By dev activity metrics, it's more alive than almost anything. So what on earth are ICP devs doing on at least to kind of earn that top spot then? Right? The big headline is this. ICP achieved direct integration with the Bitcoin network. But what does that really even mean? Well, ICP's blockchain can now interact with Bitcoin as if Bitcoin were a native feature. There's no middleman, there's no centralized bridges. So let me kind of break that down simply. Imagine the Bitcoin network on one side and ICP on the other. Right? Normally, they're separate worlds, right? And if you want to use Bitcoin in a smart contract, then you would usually rely on a kind of workaround like wrapped Bitcoin, a custodian, or even a bridge that you have to trust. ICP's developers said that we want Bitcoin directly accessible. So they built a way for ICP smart contracts, these are canisters if you want to know the technical terms, to hold and send real Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network. There was no wrapping, no third-party custody. The canisters act as Bitcoin wallets that live on ICP, but can create Bitcoin addresses, check balances, and send transactions on the Bitcoin chain itself. That's complex technical achievement under the hood, right? But let's think about the implications, right? You could run a decentralized application on ICP that takes Bitcoin deposits and uses things with BTC trustlessly, thanks to this integration. Now, as someone who holds Bitcoin, this is kind of huge. It's like giving Bitcoin a superpower that it never really had: flexible programmability. Now, Bitcoin is the OG, but it is rather rigid, right? ICP is flexible and can run all sorts of applications, but it didn't have Bitcoin's massive liquidity or base. Now, it kind of has the best of both worlds. This is like a sushi burrito, right? Two things combining into something new. If developers run with this, we could see Bitcoin leading, right? BTC yield strategies and BTC native applications running on ICP without centralized bridges. That is wild. Now, to my knowledge, nobody else has pulled this off at the base kind of protocol level in quite this way. Others use kind of federations or wrapped tokens, which is different. So it's no wonder that ICP devs have been so busy. Right? They've been integrating one of the most valuable and stubborn networks, Bitcoin, with their own chain. Now, these canisters function as kind of programmable wallets, and this whole upgrade pushes a vision of deeper decentralization that could draw in a lot of new builders. So if you love Bitcoin and want more flexibility, well, ICP just rolled out a red carpet. And if you're an ICP holder, well, you're probably just as happy to see proof that the project hasn't stagnated. Far from it, in fact, it may be actually leaping ahead in a direction that few others even try. Now, when I piece all of this together, I had to kind of laugh to myself just a little, right? It was, at least I was kind of sleeping on ICP while the devs were quietly kind of solving a tricky problem, making Bitcoin play nice with smart contracts, and all in the background. It's a reminder of the gap between public sentiment and what's actually happening in code, right? Just because crypto chatter isn't buzzing about a project doesn't mean that nothing is actually happening. Some of the most important work happens off stage. Now, here's the bigger picture that hit me. Bridges and connections, right? All three of these projects are building bridges. Hedera is bridging traditional finance with crypto, with serious movement around tokenized assets and even eyes an ETF. Chainlink is bridging blockchains to the real world with oracles, and now blockchains to each other with CCIP. ICP is bridging Bitcoin into the realm of smart contracts without handing your coins, I guess, to a middleman. Now that tells me that the future isn't just one chain ruling everything. It looks like a web of interconnected platforms, each with unique strengths, stitched together by secure roots. Now, these three are stitching that web together right now. From an investor point of view, speaking for myself, that's encouraging. If crypto is going to reach billions of users, the separate islands need to be connected seamlessly, right? We're kind of watching that connection work get done in real time. The fact that development activity is high on these projects means forward motion every single day. Now, it also reinforces a saying that I've come to kind of respect, right? Bear markets are for building. When the hype fades, the real ones keep on working. And here is the proof. Despite the mood swings of the market, these teams keep on shipping. Now, they're revealing what they've actually been cooking up. Now, I'm walking away from this rabbit hole with more optimism about these projects and a little bit of a personal validation for holding all of them through the dull stretches. Now, even if I don't own or didn't own them, my takeaway here would still be the same, right? If you don't kind of gouge long-term potential, Look at kind of what the developers are doing, right? This isn't just about the price. Price can moon or crater on hype or fear. Code, commits, and shipped features tell you whether the heart is actually beating. Now, if that kind of pulse flatlines, you should probably worry. And if it's racing, like we've seen with ICP, Chainlink, and Hedera, well, then there's life there. Now, I'm not saying that high dev activity magically leads to riches. Nothing is guaranteed, but it does tilt the odds towards meaningful outcomes. At the very least, I should say, it means that the teams haven't quit, right? And that the project is still evolving. Now, for me, somewhere between the hobbyist and the hardcore, right, this kind of signal helps me decide where to actually pay attention. Now, I'm more comfortable holding a coin through a boring patch when I know that the devs are pushing updates and shipping improvements. If those kind of radio silent projects, they're the ones that kind of make me more nervous. So this whole journey started with shock. My underdog coins are leading the pack, and ended with a clearer sense of what they're actually leading in. Now, if you kind of take anything from this, let it be this. Peek behind the curtain of your favorite projects, check the updates, read the dev notes, and see whether there's daily progress. You might be pleasantly surprised, or you might decide to move on. Either way, you'll be making choices with better information. And if you want to keep the conversation going, then jump into our educational Discord server. It's free, it's friendly, and it's full of people who love to unpack all of this stuff. I hang out there too, and you can just come and say hi. Anyway, thanks for tagging along. Hit that like button if you found this useful and informative. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.